speaking of the film that we're currently doing, it has a relation to well, action, the action genre. And so I want to
very
talk to you.
much.
Yeah, so I want to talk to you about basically how. Well, what do you? First of all, I want to see what are your opinions on action films? Do you think they're just sort
Right.
of a thrill seekers? Is it like
So I think, of course, there's a large proportion of people who enjoy action films who are adrenaline junkies or go for that type of fare. But I do think that it appeals to a broad demographic of people, of moviegoers.
hmm,
There's something about the kinetic energy within an action sequence that can keep the attention of almost anyone if it's well done.
yeah.
So, and there's all sorts of different types of action sequences, action films. It's so
Hmm.
broad that there's a lot of subgenres.
Yeah, but they sell a lot of tickets. Like you said, it's very thrilling for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I'm just like to me like an action film because the reason why it dominates so much I feel like is because one it's not like story based, so
mm,
it's not like there's no really like the viewers don't really have to think. You know what I mean? It's not like a thriller where you gotta like puzzle out everything. It's very much just like you enjoy a ride and adventure.
I guess that depends on the subgenre and the film itself. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a large proportion of it.
But I mean, like in most cases, like even Taken, for example, I mean, like
Right.
all the three Takens, in the end of that, you're just kind of like, hey, yo, why don't you just put a padlock on your fucking daughter or like a GPS tracker and you'll find her every time you want. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, or like even the Matrix, for example.
Right.
Like to me, the Matrix is a good example of like a good balance of both,
Mm,
where essentially there is a good story behind it, there's an idea behind it, and then
yeah.
there's the action sequence that sort of complement it.
Yeah, well, where the action is a reflection of what the movie is trying to show, what the movie is
Yeah.
arguing in a sense.
Yeah, but the only issue is though is as the films went on, like the second and third one, it kind of went more towards the action. So they upped the budget onto the action sequences, but then like the storyline
Yeah,
just kind of kept on like it's kind of like instead of going upwards, it kind of just like slowly hovered where the action sequence just went significantly higher.
right.
Where like in the
Where
first one, it's just like a one-on-one combat scene, and then afterwards, just like a whole entire Smith army going up against Neo, and he's going spinning around like a pole dancer.
right. Well, on the subject of Keanu Reeves in action films, we have the little trilogy right now.
Yeah,
Uh,
for now.
for now,
The fourth one was supposed to come out last year, but then COVID hit. But yeah,
right. So John Wick is very much a action series where the action is 95% of the film. There
mm,
is a story, however, a through line, but it is mostly like a bit like a ride, a mechanism to
mm,
enable the rest of the action sequences.
yeah. I have
Uh,
a question. I have a question concerning John Wick. Actually,
yeah,
seeing John Wick essentially was just a sort of like a very sort of basic story of just an ex-assassin sort of trying to get trying to move on from life, and then his life catches up with him. Um, did you like when when like the two movies that came after came out and sort of revealed more about the world? Was it more of a positive or a negative thing? Because I know a lot of people that sort of like like the coin issue, like the whole idea with the coins and the
right.
whole idea, like the whole mystery behind who are assassins, are the assassin is the assassin world sort of known to the public, etc., etc. Like that whole mystery was the reason why John Wick was such a like well built character and well built
Mhm.
world, because it's kind of like it has glimpse of of stuff that like sort of piques the audience's interest in terms of like, oh, what does that really mean, like the gold coins, what is that, and all stuff.
Right.
But then when the second and third movie came out, it started giving backstories and like the origin.
Answering all the questions. Yeah.
Exactly. So how do you feel
Um,
about that? Do you feel it's a good thing or a bad thing?
so I think the first one has a charm as a solo film
Mm,
where having all those mysteries answered does kind of make it less surreal.
Hmm.
in the sense where you could watch the first one alone and it feels like almost like a a kind of lucid dream
Mm.
of just kinetic action the whole way through in a vague-ish world that enables such bouts of violence.
Mm.
Um, and that has an interest of its own. However, I'm not completely against the idea of them fleshing out these things, but it does make the John Wick franchise a different one by
Yeah.
answering all those things. I
The,
think both ways can work.
yeah.
It's just I think tone is what matters
Mm.
in those cases. You know,
Well,
defining what the tone is.
to me, it's kind of the same thing as like a book where like essentially when you have like when you read a novel, for example, it gives you like sort of descriptions of a world or whatever, but they don't give you the entirety, the entire
Right.
like sort of um blueprint of the world. It's sort of just like, okay, there's this, that, this, and you kind of create it yourself, and then you're like, oh look, maybe this has that. But it's basically the same thing as the first John Wick to me, where like they sort of give you like little hints and be like, oh, this could mean that, this could mean that, and it's sort of like a ambiguous question, right? Ambiguous answer, sorry. And then after that, you have sort of um second and third movie where they sort of reveal what the meaning of this is, and like sometimes it's not up to par of what you expected it to be. So for example, like this, the whole assassin group thing where there's the favors, and there's this like uh John Wick comes from this Russian assassin, whatever, that has a cross or whatever the fuck it was. Like now you start questioning, like, okay, now it's a world within, like, that's a world within a world.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Black Widow, where it's like this character comes from this part of the world, but then this part of the world is actually connected to another part of the world that's sort of, what I mean. It's kind
Right,
of
like
like,
a larger world, but with a inner world or inner underworld that we explore.
exactly. And then there's also the whole, Lawrence Fishburne's character, the I forget what his name was. um yeah, his character, where he's sort of just like an old friend, and it's like this whole weird
Right,
thing. And you just like, sort of wonder, like, one, it gives you more mysteries, so I guess it's good, so you could kind of question yourself, but at the same time it's kind of like eventually um the charm, like you said, from the first one kind of like dies down, where you just sort of
right.
like lose the actual character development, and it's kind of like the reverse of an arc, in a sense, where you start off with the resolution and you come backwards into
Right.
the beginning.
Yeah, it is a strange kind of uh, where the original John Wick is like an abstraction of
Mm.
reality, and then we ground it, or seemingly ground it more and more, and it raises more questions in a sense.
Yeah.